Hey, you want to see something really scary?
What's your favorite scary movie?
I'm gonna scare the hell out of you.
What was living behind that boy's eyes was purely and simply evil.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
When there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk here.
What's blood for, if not for shedding?
Welcome to Fright Night.
Welcome back to Jump Scare. I'm Betty.
And I'm Shad.
This week we watched Clown in a Cornfield.
It's time to sweeten the day with the marvel of Bay Pen bran corn syrup. That's right. A little drop of Bay Pen makes everything better. Just take it from Friendo.
Hey, check it out. It's Friendo.
Everyone's favorite clown. Now, tell me, folks, are you a friend of Friendo? I know I am.
What the fuck?
We're gonna die.
And remember, kids,
Never fuck with Friendo.
We had some trouble getting that one out the first time.
Oh my goodness. It's a tongue twister. See it
It's
3
better
times.
than Corn in a Clown Field.
This film just came out. I was able to see a early screening of it on Wednesday, and Shad viewed it Thursday, and here we are now doing podcasts on Clown in the Cornfield. This is based on a YA novel that came out about 5 years ago by Adam Cesare, and you know, it's one of those things. Look, the book has been out for a little while, and I think actually TikTok had a big hand in this because people started talking about it. Book talk, I should say.
Oh Lord.
Book talk, the corner of TikTok that is celebrating literature.
Well, I know all the bookstores have a book talk display now.
They sure do, because that's how popular it's gotten.
Yeah.
This was definitely part of the whole book talk thing. And you know what? I was the head of the children's department for a while, for a couple of years. And it was, believe it or not, it was a rare thing for horror novels to be in the section. The section at the time when I was working was all dystopian societies.
Oh yes, it was all Hunger Games and
it was, you know, Maze Runner, you know, whatever.
The Girl Without a Face or whatever the hell it is. I don't know.
I don't know that one, but there weren't a lot of horror novels at one point in, like, you know, the 90s. You had R.L. Stine in there. You had Christopher Pike. You had any of the point horror, you know, if you guys know anything about Scholastic and, you know, all the horror novels for teens at that point. And then there was a long time where it kind of like dwindled away and they weren't as popular anymore. And romantic, teenage just melodrama took over. So,
which I'm surprised that once Twilight hit, there weren't 5,000 other young adult vampire novels, werewolf novels. Oh, let's make a mummy novel. You know what I mean? I'm surprised there weren't like knockoffs of it all around, that they were like, vampires and werewolves are doing well, let's hit all the monsters.
Well, you had City of Bones series. There were some other things. I'm not going to get into the whole YA like geekiness, but it wasn't as predominant like you're saying.
Yeah.
But there were novels, and that the City of Bones, it did get made into a film. There were other ones. They weren't as popular. And that's because, not that, we need to get into it, but now you started the conversation. That's because teachers were really the driving point for Twilight, believe it or not, because there were a lot of SAT words in there, in my opinion, and I tried to read that novel many times, even audio. I couldn't get through it. It was just terrible. I thought the formatting was just horrendous. The writing was not good. It was not good at all. But she would use the same word like 7 times. So teachers really appreciated that, and it got the kids to read. So it became popular in two ends. Nevertheless, my whole point is that within the YA section, horror has never been, but for a long time wasn't like a big thing. This being made into a movie is a pretty big thing, and I actually had low expectations on this, not because it was a YA novel, but I just didn't know what it really entailed, and this is where you come in, sir.
Yes, because I've read the first 2 books of this, because there are 2 sequels to it, and I've read the first 2. And the movie is a pretty faithful adaptation of the first book. It changes a few things here and there, but it's nothing that, if you take it out, it changes the movie that much. The beginning of the movie is a little different. There's a few characters that motivations are changed around a little bit. Some things are left out, of course, but because there was a lot more of character work and them just hanging out and talking to each other before the big, barn dance. But all in all, it's a good adaptation of the book. There's nothing that they took out that I was like, oh God, they really should have left that in.
Someone else that read the novel said that there were way more kills in the novel than there were in the film.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. They showed a lot more. There was a lot more kids that got. When the first attack happens, there were a lot more people shot, stabbed, that kind of stuff.
I did think that was odd in that part of the film. Oh, spoiler. This is a spoiler. And I did kind of mention that in social media that we were going to be spoiling this. So we didn't spoil anything so far. So if you have not watched the film yet, and or you're a person that doesn't want to hear spoilers, this is the point to pause and watch the movie and then come back and listen to the rest of our discussion. So the point where we have all the friendos come out, and all the kids are going into the barn house.
Yeah.
I thought that they would be at least one friendo, because we got we got like 7 friendos out there. One of them would go in, but they all seemed very attached and very focused on the main kids that we've been following throughout the whole film. And before we get more into the film, let's kind of give like a synopsis.
Okay, yeah, I'll tell you about that.
Okay.
So the film starts off with what follows Quinn Maybrook and her father, that her mother, his wife, has overdosed recently and died. She was hooked on, in the book, it was painkillers. She had some kind of surgery, and then she got hooked on the painkillers.
So basically, we have a doctor that is
the single dad.
The single dad who's a doctor. They've gone through trauma. They're losing the mom. He decides to live a quieter life. Takes his, the suburban family. City family. They take him into the country. And now they have to deal with all the weird. And let me tell you, the Kettle Springs,
Missouri.
That's not a real place.
No, it's not a real place. Okay. But it could be.
Well, you are from Missouri.
Yes.
So
I spent, let's see, what would I say? I don't know, the first 31 years of my life there. So it's pretty accurate.
When I've never been, but in that opening shot when they're going into the town, and I saw as she was they were putting up the Founders Day. Let me tell you, any horror movie, and I do love this about the film, it is 100% a slasher film, and there's so many different things like, the Founders Parade. Like, there's always going to be a parade. Some shit's always going to go down, it's especially in a small town, they're going through and she's looking at everything. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what I envisioned Missouri to look like. Like, certain, cities in Missouri, or say towns in Missouri to look like.
It's not that far off.
Okay. So then, you have the whole teenager, trying to get into the groove of, the country life, missing the city life, and hating the father. You have the angst, I shouldn't say hate. I would say hate, but bothered.
She's a little annoyed by him. She doesn't really hate him, but she's kind of...
Yeah, she's not, but I'm saying, like, as a teenager, like, oh, your dad, why did you bring me out here in the middle of nowhere? Like, I left all my friends, especially when you're, like, so close to graduating. She was 17.
Yeah, and... the movie, like the book, she comes to school on the first day and things go badly for her. That's not really her fault. And her and a bunch of the people get put into detention, and that's where she kind of makes friends with everybody there.
She makes friends with the
cool kids.
The quote-unquote cool kids who are assholes and also hate the town and also are making... videos based on the town's mascot, which is a clown named Friendo, which
it was a corn syrup factory.
Corn syrup factory.
They made all the corn syrup, and the factory went under a few years ago, and when it burned down, and they're like, the town's been kind of dying ever since. In the book, they talked about they were trying to get people to reopen the factory, to get people to invest in the town and get it kind of up and going again. There was one movie theater in the town that had one screen that showed only older movies. And everybody was like, we got to drive an hour just to see a new movie. And, they were very bored with living there. I appreciated that.
Yeah. How close is Gatlin, Nebraska from Missouri?
I don't know.
Children of the Corn.
Oh.
Children of the Corn. They're obviously, and there's cornfields here. They're making corn syrup. Wink, wink. I know it was a terrible joke, but I had no idea where the film. I didn't want you to tell me anything as you were reading the novel. I really didn't want to know anything. The trailer did give it away. I didn't like that about... I don't... Like, editors, can we just keep the trailer where we're not showing every fucking thing in the movie? Like, for me, the reveal of Friendo being more than just one person, I feel like should have been left out of the trailer. Because you take away the element of surprise, and the scare... for me, if you're doing that.
But yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think it would have been better. The book really didn't give away the fact that there was more than one until, the first one is kind of down and out, and then there's another one that pops up.
The kills are gruesome as heck, the ones that did make it into the film. We didn't mention that this was directed by the same guy that did... Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
He also did the movie The Little Evil with Adam Scott and that. It's Eli Craig.
Eli Craig, who we just learned is Sally Field's son, which is wild to me. But he, and you kind of see, even though with the screenwriters, I don't know if he had a hand in that. And it's two other separate screenwriters, but there's slight tone. This movie's funny. I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, it's written by Eli Craig and a guy named Carter Blanchard.
Oh, okay. I thought only Carter.
No, there's the two of them co-wrote it together, of course, based off the novel.
Yes.
And it has that little bit of that Tucker and Dale humor to it about the gruesome kills and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I love the kills. I love the kills. Also, I love that there was a very faint, not overly dramatic and just overdone, clown giggles.
Yeah.
Which I thought was super creepy,
And the squeaking shoes I thought was a good touch.
Oh, yeah, the squeaking shoes.
And I do appreciate that it looked like a lot of the blood effects and stuff were practical and not digital.
Yeah. If they were digital, it looked amazing.
It was really good. But yeah, I like that too, because when there's a difference between seeing someone soaked in digital blood and then seeing someone soaked in real blood.
Oh God, digital blood looks terrible.
Yeah.
I have to say that the actors, usually they'll get like the actors that are like 35 years old to play like an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
Everyone looked age appropriate. I thought, especially Quinn, who's the lead in the film.
Yeah, she's played by an actress named Katie Douglas, and she's tiny. She looks like she's 17, even though she's probably 25.
Yeah, she's like 5 feet tall. So, and she was great in the film.
Oh yeah, she was amazing.
Everyone did a great job. I hated who I needed to hate. The people that were annoying. I loved how Friendo would leave his little jack-in-the-box, and that kind of like
his little calling card.
Yeah, his little calling card. So at first you don't know. And you know what the other smart thing is? I don't know if this was in the novel. I'm assuming you said it was pretty faithful, so I'm going to say yes. I like that the friends all shared this like Friendo like page that they created, like channel, right? Where they had all these like shorts where Friendo was coming in and like killing, them.
They didn't do exactly that. They had their page there. They did some pranks with Friendo, and they did other pranks and different things. They posted like the videos of the teachers melting down, or somebody doing something embarrassing, or that. They did a lot of things to just be mean to people.
So they kind of show that in the scene with the teacher and the teacher's having a meltdown, and how they posted that, but they focused on, they showed at least
the scare videos,
right? Yeah. I like that aspect because that definitely adds on to the whole thing of the movie, which is really the Gen Z versus the Gen Xers. You have the clash of the titans, so to speak. And how these Gen Xers are just fucking tired with these freaking kids. They're done with the kids. They're freaking annoying the shit out of them. And, they want to live a certain way of life, have a certain way of life, and live their life like that.
These kids just aren't respectful.
Yes. Which is like, this is not 1954, guys. You guys got to get out of it. But then again, hello.
But so, to go on with it, then she becomes friends with the bad kids.
Yeah.
And the novel is a little bit more of the things going on with it, but things all come to a head, and this is what I liked about the book and about the movie, is that, a lot of the slasher movies, it's all in one night. It's all in one thing is happening. And, some of them, like Scream, it's spread out over several nights. There's different murders over different nights, and it keeps going. Like the climax all happens in one night, but a lot of it. This, except for a couple of things that happen earlier in it, most of it takes place all in the night. They all go to the remote cornfield out in the middle of nowhere with the old barn, and they're going to have their party out there. Everybody's drinking beer, everybody's doing whatever, and that's when the Friendos attack.
That reminded me of Scream 4.
Yeah.
When they all went to the barn and had the party. Now, what I was saying before was that the kids are doing these pranks, and a lot of them had Friendo in them. So when there's a lot of points in the film, especially when the kids are getting killed one by one, they think it's their friends pranking them. And
yeah,
it's
at first
actually,
when they see it, it's like, oh, this is just another prank.
Yeah, all of them get hit with it. The two girls think they're getting pranked. The friend, I forgot his name, the one that was in his bedroom that got oh my gosh, when the Friendo laid the plastic out Dexter style.
Yeah.
Super smart. When have you ever seen that in a slasher film? Like, and also how he at the time, because, or he or she, because there's he or she and the Friendo behind the mask. So the laying out of the plastic I thought was genius. I was like, okay, that's pretty fucking cool. And also the distraction with these Jack-in-the-Box, and also they played up like you think one of the kids is the mayor's son, and he's, the legacy of, founding fathers, kid, was Cole Hill. And, Cole has access to all of these, old-timey things, from his family's history of Friendo.
And in the book, they brought up, that's where they got their Friendo costumes, was from him having access to the factory and all this kind of stuff.
Which you later see in the film, The Room with All the Costumes.
Yeah. And there was a...
Which this would make an excellent, not to cut you off, I'm sorry. This would make an excellent, as when she walked in that room with all the friendos, like all the costumes there and all the masks, I thought, man, this would be an awesome Universal Studios
that would be good, like a Halloween horror house with all the clown costumes.
Yeah, you can have, it would be in one of those like studio houses where you would walk in, it would be all cornfields.
Oh, yeah.
Wouldn't that be cool? And then you're walking through the cornfield and, you would have the friendos, whatever. Then you can have that room where you're walking in. Because they've done that, a couple of times. Which, those are my favorite rooms. When you walk in, it's like a room full of fucking mannequins. Or the other one, we walked in and it was like a subway train. And everyone's sitting. There's some people are standing. People, quote unquote, some people are sitting. You don't know who's real. You don't know who's a mannequin, who's a person. I love those. Those really throw me off because they're creepy as hell. So that would be cool. Walk through. As I was watching the movie, I was like, man, this would be a cool Universal Studios. Even though obviously not put out by the studio house, so that wouldn't happen. But that would be cool to see as a walkthrough for a Halloween house.
Now, you had mentioned when the friendos attack, the friends kind of the main cast all kind of run into this one shed, and that's where the friendos all seem to congregate and go after them. And in the book, the group kind of divided. Part of them went in there, and part of them ran out into the cornfield, and then some of them were kind of help the kids in the barn. And eventually it got to the point in the book where the friendos were lighting the barn on fire. And the main cast of kids had to come and help with that. They kind of just forgot about the kids in the barn in the movie.
Yeah, they did.
But they make it also too, they mentioned in the book that they were out to target certain ones above all others. They could get others. There were some people they were not supposed to touch. They were there, and then there were others that were definitely go after this one. Get this guy. Don't kill Cole. Make sure he gets brought back, and all this kind of stuff, They had specific instructions on which kids to get. Others, they were do whatever you want, but there was a do not touch list. And then there was the, bring these ones in alive and that kind of stuff.
Oh, that's cool. Okay.
Yeah. Because you got to see a little bit more of the friendos talking about what was happening.
And you did say that in the novel, some of the teenage friends were actually involved with the parents.
They were helping set everything up.
Yeah, so they were not innocent. But then they did get theirs.
Yeah, they got theirs in the book. But
they
just kind of left that part out because it wasn't necessary, really. You could do without it. It was fine.
Yeah.
The movie works just as well without it.
It's refreshing to know that. I mean, I guess because... I was gonna say, I guess it's because it's a YA novel, they're able to stay so true. But sometimes you have YA novels that are adapted and they don't stay true. Fear Street series. Netflix dropping the ball and having the worst adaptations of Fear Street novels, but whatever. That's gonna be a whole other fun podcast for later. But yeah, it's refreshing to know that they were pretty faithful to the novel.
Yeah. I thought the changes they made didn't hurt it. I don't know if it made it worse or better. I think it just made it okay. It didn't
change the center of the plot.
No. There was a little bit more. Obviously, they did more in the book because you have more time in the book.
Yeah.
There was more the farmhouse where they go. There was more time in that because it's there that they realize a couple of the kids are in on it. So then they're dealing with them, trying to fight them off. And, there was a little more to the book. Obviously, there's always more because if this was on Netflix, it could have been a 2-part thing easily.
Oh, and it would have been worse.
Probably,
it would have been terrible.
It flowed pretty well. Like I said, the only thing that really, when you think about, like you said, like, oh yeah, they did kind of forget about the kids in the barn.
They totally forgot about the kids. Entered the barn, and we never saw those kids again.
Yeah, they locked the door, and it was like, well, I guess we're just not worrying about them.
It was like when you're playing like tag, like, and there's some kids that you forget about because you're after specifically, like, you're after Jimmy, you're gonna get Jimmy,
And the other kids just took off running down the field and just like, yep,
you're
gone.
like, whatever. I don't, who cares about those kids? But that was a little annoying. I wish. That's the one small, and it's not even a criticism, one small thing, only because they could have upped the kill count.
Yeah.
But really, the movie wasn't really about the kill count. It was more about getting back at these specific
It was kind
kids.
of, it kind of reminded me of a reverse Children of the Corn.
Yes.
In Children of the Corn, the kids all turn evil and murder the parents. This one is... the parents are all pissed at the kids. They're all not acting right. They're disappointments. So they decide to just murder all the kids, or the majority of them. So like the ones that are left will be the good kids that we, what they think is the good kids will be the ones left over.
Yeah. There were some collateral damage because in the party there was a few kids that didn't get it that were right there at the front. Like the DJ got it, he got it right to the head. And the
poor girl that staggers out of the cornfield you see in the trailers with the arrow in her back. In the book, she's a bigger character through the first part of it.
Oh, okay.
There's a lot more character with her, like explaining what happened and how she went from being kind of happy-go-lucky to a little more emo and all this kind of stuff. And then that's why it hit a little harder in the book when she comes out of the cornfield with the arrow in her back.
Okay.
But obviously you've only got 90 minutes for a movie, so you can't spend as much time developing every character.
Exactly, so you got to go for the centralized ones, which is fine. I appreciate a good slasher. We are fans. My sister always tells me, we know these like psychological / foo-foo movies, like that Night House movie, whatever the name of that movie was that came out a couple of years ago. And I'm like, oh, whatever, the movie was bad. She's like, you just like slashers. Those are your favorite movies. And she's right. Those are my favorite movies because I was born in the rise, the birth of the slashers, where they're really, in the cusp, I would say. Not at the beginnings, but when they started becoming like, oh, this is a thing now, I love me a good slasher. And this is a good slasher. It was funny. I love the kills. The plot was fine. There was character development. It had a little bit of everything that I personally enjoy in a film. Could there be more tweaks here and there? Of course, there's always room for improvement, but I'm not really one to sit here and say like, oh, we need to have this and this and this. Like, really, I really enjoyed myself. Like I said, I was surprised. And I give it 3 knives. Yeah,
I'd agree with that. I'd give it 3 knives. It does everything it needs to do, and I hope it does well at the box office because I'd like to see him adapt the sequels as well. I've read this part 2, which is called Friendo Lives, which picks up like a little bit later after the first one, and it deals with what it's like to have survived a massacre like this, and then, now you're known in the public for all this. People see you out in the street and take selfies with you, or want to take selfies. Oh, you're a survivor. You're so brave. And then also, like at the end of the movie, where she gets the little baton, that comes into it a lot in the second one.
Oh, the difference. One of the main differences in the film you were stating was this film started and they showed you that Friendo was killed. We were going to assume 2 teens in 1991.
Yeah.
And then later on, towards the end of the film, when there's the reveal of all the friendos and who's behind it, the individual states that, he was tired, and this is a thing that all the generations before him has done. And each decade, he's like, oh, the 60s, the hippies,
we had
whatever.
hobos in the 30s,
yes.
Hippies in the 60s. And we had the grunge kids in the 90s that we had to deal with.
Yeah.
Like,
so they're all. But he's like, but your generation is the worst. And I did not disagree with that. And I am not in that age bracket. But I thought that was really funny, but that's the difference between that didn't happen in the novel.
Yeah, that didn't happen in the novel. At least not that they've said in the first 2 that I read. Maybe that pops up in the third one. I don't know.
I mean, who knows? But I doubt it. I don't know which concept I like better. I guess the most believable one would be the novel take, which this is the first time that's happened, because if there was such a long history of like decades like that, one, why would people still live in the town? 2, it would be kind of like a Dark Harvest kind of thing where like everyone knows what's going on. And
or Sunnydale, where it's like there's a murder every day and people are like, yeah, it's Sunnydale.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, I don't know. I like both results. But the movie decided to take, this is a thing that, has been going on in the fathers before them. This is something that they've all done to kind of, get rid of or clean up the streets.
The undesirables.
Yeah, of Kettle Springs, which is like, there's like 2 streets.
Yeah, I mean,
in the whole town. It was like how you're telling me about you driving around in the circle and the cops stopping you and saying like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, this is all there is to do here. I'm just driving.
Yeah, I'm going up and down the street. What do you want me to do?
Yeah, they're acting like you're some kind of like hooligan, But I have to say that does it need to be a sequel? Maybe. I don't know. To think that one of the friendos lives and is gonna continue terrorizing. Obviously it's happened before. We got the I know what you did last summer, I
know what you did. I still know what you did last summer, which still should have been
I still know what you did last summer.
Yeah. It should have been I know what you did 2 summers ago. But
what was clever about that one was it kills me because I'm like, man, here I am in the theater, however old I was, young. And I'm watching this film, and it never fucking dawned on me that his name is Will Benson. And you're like, when he's like, Ben's son, and I'm like, oh my god, it's Ben's son. That part just gets me to this day. I'm like, the reveal. It's better than the reveal of stupid ass Scream, where it's like, oh, I was the long bastardized, brother of yours, your mom.
In Scream 3?
Yeah, when she came to LA and tried to make it and, had that, it was like before the Me Too movement, which is crazy.
Yeah, that movie was really about Harvey Weinstein before everybody knew. They just told you what it was in that movie and everybody was like, wow, that's crazy. How could that really happen?
Damn. I didn't even think about it like that, but that's facts. That's crazy. But yeah, so that because that was such a stretch. That was way too much.
Yeah, that she had a brother.
Yeah. Will Benson, I'll take it. But yeah, so then we're going to have Friendo's Return.
Yeah. And the third one, which I haven't read, is called The Church of Friendo. I'm kind of anxious to read that one, see where that goes.
Yeah. Well, you kind of said that there were people that go in on it in the second one that had nothing to do. He starts kind of like, I don't want to say making a cult, but
he starts the whole conspiracy theory of the events in the first one never happened. The kids were evil and they orchestrated all this. They're the ones that caused all the problems. The parents didn't do that. The kids just turned on the parents and killed them. Everything's blamed on the victims. And then there's people who, the town kind of goes wild. Like people are rioting in the town over it and different things. It's a whole different take on what it would be like to survive that kind of an event and then have to explain it to people.
Yeah.
How do you get everybody to believe you,
I wish some of the other girls, the 2 girls, I wish they weren't so feeble. Though one girl was complaining the whole time. I just wanted her to die. Just kill her already. She's so annoying.
But then again, that kind of goes to the 80s slasher thing. Where
it does.
There's a few heroes, and then there's a bunch of annoying people.
For me, it's like, we don't have to make everyone Lara Croft. Like, not everyone has to be like a badass chick. Okay, because we're going to have the final girl, right? That's going to be Quinn. That's fine to have her to be the final. But at least don't make the other 2 so helpless and like dumb as hell. Like, and so hopeless. They can have one moment where they're able to avoid
where
or
they do
dodge
something.
or they do something, and then they can have their dumb moment when they die. That's fine. Just it annoys me, and I understand what you're saying. That does play into the slasher,
Yeah.
But it still irks me because I want to root for someone. I just don't want to root for one person. You know, I want to root for I was rooting for Cole, the other guy, Rust. How could I forget his name? Rust, and I was rooting for Quinn. But the two girls, I'm just like, damn it. But I really enjoyed the film, and you guys should go out and watch it this weekend. I don't think that you're gonna say, "Oh, this was a terrible movie." I mean, considering how many other terrible movies have been out in horror wise too. I mean, we've had our gems here and there, but this was really entertaining, and you'll have a good time. And thank you for joining us on another episode of Jump Scare the Horror Podcast. Stay tuned to the horror.
And now, folks, it's time to say goodnight. We sincerely appreciate your patronage and hope we've succeeded in bringing you an enjoyable evening of entertainment. Please drive home carefully and come back again soon. Good night.